I'm still very optimistic for the future of Algorand. And when people ask me, hey, when it comes to Algo, its native token, $5, is that still hypothetically in your mind? Or should I say in my mind in this case, right? But then they ask me that question. I would say arguably yes, even though nothing I say is financial advice. And here's the reason why. It's because when it comes to Algorand, I think it's a very underrated layer one blockchain. I mean, when I tell my friends about Algorand, they say, oh, but the adoption is bad. Well, here's the thing. How can it be bad? I mean, let's take a look at something that happened not too long ago. It might feel like ages ago, but actually it's not that long ago because, for instance, right, back in January, it was announced that Enel Group, now Enel is an Italian company or group, I should say, and they were Europe's largest electricity producer, partnered with Conio to launch a solar panel tokenization product on Algorand. And again, this was back in January. We got to think about this. This is very amazing, hypothetically in theory. And would a bad layer one blockchain be able to do something like that? Or should I say, would a bad project in general be able to do something like that? I highly doubt that, right? And think about this. Back in 2024, according to the Globe Newswire, the global solar energy systems market was valued at around $250 billion. And that's back in 2024. You know what I mean? So when it comes to Algorand, I don't think the adoption is bad. It may not be the best, but then it's not bad, hypothetically in theory. Not to mention, Algorand, currently, allegedly, there's over 2,000 global organizations. And what they're doing when it comes to this is that allegedly, Algorand is the technology of choice for that many, right? Again, over 2,000 global organizations. Let's just let that sink in. Over 2,000 global organizations? I mean, could you really just imagine that? I mean, of course, I can imagine that, but I'm just saying, this is kind of unheard of a little bit because people like to say, oh, is Algorand better or Avalanche? Because this is kind of like the main competitor, people like to say. Well, is Avalanche really doing stuff like this? I mean, I'm not saying Avalanche is bad. I think it's a very good layer one blockchain. But if we take a look at Algorand, kind of in like the institutional side of things, I feel like it's way ahead when it comes to Avalanche. Avalanche is known primarily for these decentralized finance projects, or should I say these DeFi projects, right? It's kind of like for the retail side of things. We haven't seen that much retail, I would say, kind of adoption really in the grand scheme of things, I would say, compared to, its institutional side of things when it comes to Algorand. So I think that really Algorand in the long term could maybe, I think, become the number one when compared to Avalanche, because here's the way to take a look at it. We have to take a look at just back in history. What fostered the growth of the internet? From what I saw, it was institutional adoption. The retail market did help, but you know what? When institutions really adopted the internet, that was when we really saw that massive growth. Would it be the same when it comes to blockchain technology? I think in theory, yes, because these enterprises, usually they have the volume, they have the capital, they have the resources to kind of facilitate that type of growth. And in some cases, just way more than what the retail side of things could really do, So I think Algorand is actually kind of like a no-brainer layer one blockchain for me, even though I'm not telling anyone to buy Algo, but this is just the way I take a look at it. Now, not to mention, when we take a look at something like Algorand, I think it kind of has something that is a little bit similar to Ripple and Stellar. Now, some people may be thinking, oh, what do you mean by that, man? Stellar, aka XLM, Ripple, aka XRP, what do you mean by this? Well, here's the thing. What is something that people like about Ripple and Stellar? In my opinion, it is because one of the main components, I'm not saying it's the only thing, but again, one of the main components is the aspect of ISO 20022. Now, why does this matter? It's because ISO 20022, that's currently being used by many financial institutions from all around the world for something called inter-organizational data exchange. So it's very massive, actually. It's already up and running. It's not something that's kind of experimental or in the testing phase. In theory, that's not the case. So we take a look at Algorand, it has actually theoretically an aspect of ISO 20022. That is kind of like the unique thing when it comes to Algorand. It's because when we think about it, we don't really think about that, right? Some people like to say, oh, Algorand is a watered down version of Avalanche. Well, is it really? And I don't think so, actually, in theory, because we take a look at the adoption and kind of the institutional side of things, not to mention we take a look at aspects of ISO 20022. I mean, really, Algorand, man, I just like it. It's a layer one blockchain that kind of has an aspect of the Stellar and type of, Ripple type of projects, but then at the same time kind of has the aspect of Avalanche as well and that side of things. So I do like Algorand. And not to mention, Algorand is allegedly fully carbon neutral, which I think is very impressive. I mean, A lot of enterprises nowadays, they want to go green. They want to showcase that they care about the environment. So I think something like this does really play into what a lot of enterprises are looking for. And again, those are those type of projects that are usually, I would assume, are very hypothetically environmentally friendly. So I do believe that when it comes to Algorand, man, I'm just very excited. And we have to think about this. Algorand doesn't have bad exposure. Algo, its native token, listed in a bunch of major exchanges. Also, when we take a look at something like Algorand, I think the community is A+. I think it's very passionate. I think they really kind of, have this good following when it comes to Algorand because Algo, it's made it through, that 2021 dump and whatnot, right? It's been through all the nonsense. It's still here. It's an altcoin that has proven that, it's not just all hype, right? It's kind of made it through those moments. So when it comes to Algorand, I get it. When they see Algo hypothetically going to the price of $5, they're like, oh, it's around a 27x. Take a look at this microcap and what it could do. Again, Algo's not a microcap. The market cap is not like, not that big anymore, right? Like way back then. This is already a pretty massive project. But in my opinion, we have to take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin going to the price of 300 grand, which many people would consider is already very, very bullish. That's less than a 3x from here, slightly. Algo, again, going to the price of $5 over a 20x, to be a little bit specific, around a 27x. I'm not saying it could happen, but let's say Algo just went to the price of $2.50. That's still over a 10x from here, right? So could Bitcoin do that during this bull run? I'm saying the next 6 to 10 months? Theoretically, I don't think so. And think about this. Let's say Algo going to the price of $5, considering current circulating supply. Market cap at that point around $43 billion. We've seen BNB reach over $100 billion in market cap back in 2021. And I think the factors back then were way less bullish than right now. I mean, just take a look at now the hype for the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, the number of institutional investors, the amount of enterprise adoption, not to mention back in the peak of the 2021 bull run, around 300 million crypto owners. Now we have over 600 million according to Crypto.com research. That's more than ever before in history. And you got to think about this. We have all those factors right now, given, the market conditions not necessarily being the best. So imagine if things did get better, what would those factors look like? What would the bullish sentiment look like? I think maybe, theoretically, it could be maybe better. So then, why would I give up on Algorand? As a worst case scenario, altcoins, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event, and 18 months from the last Bitcoin halving event would actually mean around October this year. No, it may not necessarily happen the exact time because that's just based off history, but I can take a look into the future. So at least I'll take a look at that, and you know what? Whenever it does happen, there's only one thing I can control because I cannot control when things go up or down or whatever. I can't do that. The only thing I can control is literally myself. And that is just by accumulating, holding, and just waiting for the projects that I do believe in. And literally that's it. But I'm still staying patient. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's only the captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm a peace. Bye.